Today I'm sharing a gripping tale about love, betrayal, and the unforeseen consequences of our choices. This is not just a story, but a reflection of the complex human emotions we all experience. Imagine the sound of rain tapping against the window, like a symphony of tiny drums. This storm outside mirrors the tempest within our story. Our scene opens in a living room, the remnants of a shared life scattered across a table. Now a battlefield of broken promises and shattered dreams. Meet Mara, her eyes red and swollen from crying, clutching a napkin as if it could hold her world together. Across from her sits a figure, outwardly calm but inwardly raging, heart pounding with the weight of an impending revelation. The storm outside is nothing compared to the storm within. You can /T do this to me, not for just a little love. Mara pleads, her voice breaking. The response is measured, deliberate, revealing the gravity of a situation far more complex than a simple affair. There's news of a serious accident, a twist of fate that turns this domestic drama into a life or death struggle. As the story unfolds, we follow our characters through a hospital visit, a confrontation with law enforcement, and a deep dive into hidden motives and dark secrets. Each step peels back layers of deception, leading to a climax that forces everyone to face the consequences of their actions. In sharing this tale, I hope to illuminate the profound lessons hidden within. The paths we choose, driven by love or revenge, often lead to unintended and far-reaching consequences. This story is a stark reminder of how deeply our lives are intertwined, and how our choices can ripple through the lives of those around us. Stay tuned. Leave your comments and share your thoughts. This is more than a story. It's a journey into the depths of human emotion and the complexities of our shared experiences. Dear listeners, I welcome you to my channel. Please leave your comments and impressions. I appreciate your opinions. The sounds of rain hit the window panes like thousands of tiny drums in a strange symphony. The storm outside mirrored the tempest in our living room. Mara sat opposite me, her eyes red and swollen, clutching a coffee napkin. The table in the middle was an American battlefield littered with scraps of paper and the remnants of our lives together. You can't do this to me just for a little love, Mara pleaded, her voice cracking. The plea hung heavy with a mixture of despair and disbelief. I leaned back into my armchair, feeling the cold skin embracing me. My heart was pounding, but my face still wore a mask of serenity. I suggest you visit your app in the hospital, I spoke slowly, weighing each word carefully, or you won't get a chance to say goodbye. /N. Mara's face scrunched up further. What do you mean? What happened to Jake? Her voice was a whisper now, fear replacing the previous indignation. Standing up, I walked to the window, looking at the chaos of nature outside. He had a pretty serious accident tonight, I said without looking at her. But I heard the rustle of a tissue as she wiped her tears, trying to process the news. How do you know? She asked, her voice low, confusion apparent, her sense of control slipping. She was relieved. When I turned around to face her, I was there at the scene. It was a coincidence. I saw the collision, I said smoothly, hiding the truth that I had been watching him, tracking his every move for weeks. But now was not the time for that revelation. Mara tried to stand, shaky breaths escaping her as she steadied herself. I need to get to him. I need to meet him. She started to gather her wallet and keys, a look of urgent chaos on her face. I will drive you, I offered, the words coming automatically. Part of me wanted to see this through, to witness all the consequences of her betrayal. No, she flashed an old spark in her eyes. I don't want you anywhere near me. She stopped in the doorway, looking back at me with a complicated expression. If this is how it is, then we are done. I nodded, a simple gesture, acknowledging that the decision was made for us, not just for me. As she opened the door, the wind howled, mourning the death of our marriage. Mara walked out into the storm and disappeared into the night, leaving me alone in the ghostly silence of our empty house. I sat down and picked up my phone, scrolling through my contacts until I found the number. I needed to make a call. Waiting for the familiar voice on the other end, I heard a cautious hello. /N. She's on her way to you, I said quietly. Good. Everything is going as expected, the voice replied, satisfaction evident in its tone. As I ended the call, I felt there was no turning back from the path I had chosen. Now the game had just begun, and I was ready to play. The hospital loomed like a beacon, eerie white and blue lights piercing through the storm as I drove into the parking lot. The torrential rain distorted the world beyond my wind, shield a fitting metaphor for the chaos Mara had unleashed. I sat in the car for a moment, collecting my thoughts before stepping out into the pouring rain. The hospital was a hive of activity, nurses running through the hallways, their faces a mix of concentration and fatigue. I made my way to the reception desk, my coat dripping. I'm here to see Jacob Turner, I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. The receptionist, a middle-aged woman with sympathetic eyes, clicked on her keyboard. Are you a friend or family? She asked. Friend, I replied, though the word tasted like ash in my mouth. She nodded and scribbled something on a notepad. Room 219. Take the elevator up to the second floor and turn left. /N. Elevator ride was silent, each floor passing in slow motion. As the doors opened on the second floor, I stepped out and immediately saw Mara talking to a man in a police uniform, Detective Andrews. They stopped their conversation as they recognized me. Mara's face was a mix of shock and hurt, not expecting my appearance. Detective Andrews, however, gave a nod of confirmation, his sharp eyes assessing me. Mr. Edwards. Right, I'm Detective Andrews. We spoke on the phone before. /N. Yes, Detective. How is Jacob doing? I kept my tone neutral, professional. It's touch and go, he replied. We were just discussing the circumstances of the accident. It seems there was more to it than just a simple collision. /N. Mara looked away, guilt written on her face. I turned to her, my gaze steady. Mara, maybe you should tell the detective what you know. /N. Her eyes flashed with fear and defiance. I know nothing about the accident. I was at home all evening, she said, her voice incredulous. I looked back at Detective Andrews. I believe she may be hiding information. She had motive. /N. And what motive is that? Andrews asked, narrowing his eyes. I hesitated, glancing at Mara's pale face. Maybe it's best discussed in private. Andrews nodded. Okay, let's step into my office. Mara, stay here. We'll have more questions for you shortly. /N. We walked away. I could feel Mara's eyes on my back, her fear clear. In the detective's office, I stood facing him in the small Spartan room. I believe Mara was involved in the accident, directly or indirectly. I began. She and Mr. Turner were having an affair. Maybe when threatened to end it, things escalated. Andrews listened attentively, taking notes. And your source? I had a private investigator. I saw text messages between them. Threats were made. Andrews raised an eyebrow. We'll need to see those messages. Mr. Edwards, if what you say is true, this could become a criminal investigation. I nodded, agreeing to provide the evidence. The severity of the situation influenced my actions. I wasn't just playing a game. It was setting the stage for a larger confrontation. When I left the office, I realized that the game had become deeper and the stakes higher than ever. As I approached Jacob's room, Detective Anders had requested to meet me later to review the initial police reports and see CCTV footage around the crash site. My mind raced with the possibilities. Each step brought more charges against Mara. Before I could reach the room, I heard whispering voices. Mara stood outside, arguing in a low, urgent tone with a man I recognized as Eric, Jacob's brother. Eric was tall, broad-shouldered, known for his hot temper. It was impossible to believe Jake would do something like this. Trying to stay calm, I walked slowly to make my presence known. What's going on here? I asked, keeping a neutral tone, but still carrying authority. Eric turned to face me. His eyes narrowed. Who are you? /in. I'm a friend of Mara's, I replied, deciding to maintain some level of concealment. I heard about Jake's accident and came to see how I could help. Eric's scrutiny didn't waver. If you're Mara's friend, you're no friend of Jake's. Leave. /in. Eric, that's not fair. I'm here because I care, Mara interjected. Eric scoffed, walking closer to her, his voice a harsh whisper. You call destroying his life caring. /in. Enough, Eric. What Jake needs is calm and support, not conflict. I intervened, stepping between them. Eric stared at me, his jaw clenched and unclenched before he nodded stiffly and stormed down the hallway, his footsteps echoing. Mara sighed, rubbing her temples. Thank you. /in. Don't thank me, Mara. You can fool Eric with your tears, but not me. We both know why you're really here. /n. Before she could answer, Detective Andrews approached with a serious look on his face. We need to talk, all of us. Let's find somewhere private. She led us to a small meeting room nearby. As the door closed behind us, Andrews wasted no time. The CCTV footage shows a car matching yours nearby, Mara, shortly before the accident. /in. Mara's face turned pale, eyes wide. She looked at me, betrayal written all over her features. You knew they were checking. /in. I confirmed it. I told them to continue, I replied. Andrews continued. We also found signs of tampering with Jake's car. This was not an accident. /in. Mara sank into a chair, her body shaking. I didn't do anything to his car. You have to believe me. /in. Whether you did or not, we'll soon find out, Andrew said sternly. Now, I want you both to cut off all contact. No texting. No calling. Nothing. /N. Mara fumbled with her phone, handing it to Andrews. I pondered the unfolding situation. The plot I had set in motion was spiraling into darker and unforeseen areas. Andrews warned, "We'll be checking. Any contact could result in further charges." He left the room, leaving Mara and me in stifling silence. Despite my plans, a gnawing suspicion crept in. I had started a chain of events too monstrous to control. When Mara's teary eyes met mine, searching for an ally, she found none. I realized the road ahead was full of danger and regret. The game was deeper than I ever imagined, and every player, including myself, was in peril. As the morning light filtered to the interrogation room, where I sat across from Detective Andrews, the room felt smaller, more claustrophobic. Andrews placed photos and documents on the table between us. Mara is in another room. Her fate is hanging by a thread. Let's cut to the chase. Andrews began in a monotone. We know you've been orchestrating most of this. What I don't understand is why. I leaned back in my chair, the hard metal pressing against my back. I wasn't just upset about the affair, I said slowly, measuring my words. It was about deeper issues, corruption, deception, deeper than personal betrayal. Jacob was involved in embezzling from his company. Mara knew. Andrews squinted, tapping his fingers on the table. And you found out how. /N. Through the private detective I hired. I suspected Mara of cheating, but the Pi dug up financial records, secret deals. When I confronted Jake, it turned into a threat to expose everything if he didn't end things with Mara. /N. So the accident? Andrews asked, skepticism in his tone. None of my doing, I replied, holding his gaze. I might have threatened him, sent a few texts, but someone else acted on it. Andrews flipped through the documents, then stopped, looking at these financial figures. I advise you to see who Mara paid, not you. I nodded, feeling the weight of the situation. Yes, detective. I suspected she might have hired someone to tamper with the breaks. Andrews stood up, leaving the room. If you have anything else, now's the time. Cooperation might lessen some charges. I understand, I said as he left, leaving me alone with my thoughts. A few hours later, Andrews returned, his expression unreadable. We checked your tip. Mara did hire someone to sabotage the brakes. She panicked about being cut off financially if Jake went down. /N. And Jake? I asked, the weight of the ordeal pressing on me. He survived. He'll make a full recovery and is ready to cooperate in the investigation against Mara and his own criminal activities. /N. When the pieces fell into place, a grim satisfaction washed over me. The door opened again, and Mara was brought in, handcuffed. She met my gaze with shock and resignation. Mara, any words for your husband? Andrews prompted. Her voice trembled. I never wanted anyone to get hurt. I was trying to protect myself, protect us. /N. By hiring someone to sabotage Jake's car, I interjected, my voice cold. She looked at me, tears filling her eyes. I was afraid of what you might do. Afraid of losing everything. Andrews sighed. Let's move. Mr. Edwards. You're under arrest for conspiracy and assault. Mara, for attempted murder and accessory to embezzlement. Nas. The officers led us away. Mara's earlier words echoed in my mind. The game I thought I controlled had ensnared us both. In trying to control chaos, we had both become pawns in a much larger scheme. Our lives were forever bound and changed by the choices we made in those dark moments. The final twist came days later when Andrews visited me. There's one more thing. The investigator you hired was playing both sides. He informed Jake of your actions. Now he's under arrest too. In revelation hit hard. Even in my calculated game, I hadn't accounted for all the players. As I sat in my cell, I realized the true cost of deception was much greater than I had bargained for, a lesson learned in a game with no winners, only survivors.